I think 4 to 5 is actually a very decent approximation or
Mhm.
an estimation of where to rank them. But actually, I think you're being way too lenient by crediting the players and saying that that we have some gems. I mean, I don't want to sound too cynical or too critical, but I think there was potential, but that potential wasn't really translated into actual performances. And we can only kind of verify that based on performances
Hmm.
how good a player is. And we've seen that we've terribly lacked in the sprint department. Again, not to sound too critical, but I think Shadab really was a letdown.
Hmm.
Much was expected from him, but then
Undoubtedly.
at this level, you can't expect to see your spinners throwing in 2 to 3 full tosses every
Mhm.
here and now. I
Yep.
mean, you can't afford to drop catches at the international level. That's not what you're like the best 11 out of a population
Hmm.
of 250 million.
Yeah.
And there's more that you need to be accountable for.
And I
And
don't think your
yeah,
criticism is unfair at all. It's your opinion, obviously, and you
yeah,
didn't get personal. That's what a lot of
yeah,
people in Pakistan
yeah,
do. They get super personal. That's where you draw
yeah.
the line. You
Oh
talked
yeah,
about
yeah, no,
everything in cricketing terms and you gave your
yeah,
opinion, and there's
yeah,
absolutely nothing wrong with that.
yeah. And I think there has to be greater accountability. Then those players can
Hmm.
come back, work on themselves and maybe come back more stronger.
Hmm.
They need to take this positively.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that cancel culture is just something very different in Pakistan that has
Hmm.
kind of pervaded and is growing more and more, courtesy social media.
Hmm.
But yeah, but okay, now let's move to football. So there were
Hmm.
some good things happening there as well. Pakistan, for the first time after I think 15 years or so, won a World Cup qualifier. Uh, and they played I think about 3 or 4 matches. They didn't qualify for the World Cup, of course, but how do you see how do you witness that happening in Pakistan? Is there a new is the tide is it shifting? Is the game of football growing in Pakistan in the future? Can we expect Pakistan to ever be playing at the FIFA World Cup? Maybe not right now, of course, but 10, 20, 30 years down the line.
I would say that there has been a big shift. Like it's a turn of events because Pakistan had never qualified for the qualifiers of the FIFA
Yeah.
World Cup. Okay.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they don't, oh, well, Pakistan is the only nation associated with FIFA that does not have a functional league in its country. The fact that you have gone and defeated Cambodia in that preliminary qualifier to qualify for the qualifiers,
Mm.
that's huge on its own. I mean, they have
Mm.
no business winning that game, Pakistan's players. And a big reason for that also is because Pakistan has tapped into some diaspora talent. A lot of people don't like that, but I'm all for it. If you look at Morocco's team that made the semifinals of the FIFA World Cup, there's a lot of
Yeah.
French diaspora over there. In fact, that's the majority of that team, isn't it? So I'm all for that. In fact, even if someone is 1/4 or 1/8 Pakistani ethnically, get them in the team, because you don't have a functional league over here. Anyone who plays football week in, week out is obviously, their body is match ready and match fit. And that's where Pakistan lacked. Of course, they're still not out of it, by the way. They could, in theory, qualify for the World Cup.
Mm.
But once they defeated Cambodia, they came into a World Cup qualifying group with Saudi Arabia, who, of course, defeated Argentina in
Mm.
the recently concluded FIFA World Cup just last year. And Argentina won that World Cup, right? So they lost 4-0 to Saudi Arabia, but for the longest time, they were 2-0. I thought they did pretty well against quality opposition. And Roberto Mancini is managing that team alongside his assistant, I think, is Yaya Toure. So whenever those guys come to Pakistan, that's going to be a spectacle, right? People will just turn up to just look at Mancini and Yaya Toure. And I've seen a lot of people develop interest for Pakistan football, myself included. I didn't really know much about it. But then I've been, doing a lot of sports stuff in Pakistan. It's been primarily cricket, but I've been trying to branch out and hustle as much as I possibly can. And the football and opportunity kind of just came into my lap because the rest of the world broadcast, not Pakistan broadcast, PTV was doing Pakistan broadcast, but the rest of the world broadcast for the Pakistan versus Tajikistan game in the actual qualifiers, which Pakistan lost, I think it was 6-1 or something. I got to do commentary for that. And that was a great experience because I had to do tons of homework prior. I had to get all the pronunciations right. And the Tajik players have some really tough names. And I needed to learn everything about Pakistan's players and, what are their strengths? What is their history? Where do they play their football? Now, the chairman at this point, Haroon Malik, has hinted towards starting a league soon. It's not happening right now, but once that does happen, maybe it can be marketed well. You can, garner more interest or create more of hype around it. And that way you can grow the game in Pakistan, because as soon as, TV rights come into the picture, it's a different ball game. And that's the major step that they need to take if they want to evolve. I have no expectation of them making it into the World Cup, and maybe it'll take another 30 years for that to happen, because everyone is, far ahead of Pakistan in terms of pipelines. You cannot have a football team without a pipeline. Pakistan doesn't have one, and that's why the league is important. So once the league is created, then some work can be done, and I can see a future in which, there are lots of job opportunities for people within the football spectrum as well. Some people care about it really passionately. You've got Shayan Obaid Alexander, who has a channel on this, Shahrukh Sohail, Faizan Samir Malik, all of these guys, they've worked really hard to make football popular in Pakistan. And I salute them, because even I didn't know much prior to this whole season. But now I'm kind of directly involved in it, because I commented on a game, and hopefully I'll get to comment on some more games whenever football returns to Pakistan. But they'll be playing 4 more qualifiers, 2 more in Pakistan, and then 1 in Tajikistan and 1 in Jordan. That'll happen next year. So let's see. They should probably, arrange some floodlights, etc., in the ground, so that when the summer months come by, they can have those games at night. Otherwise, you're killing the players literally. And also just tap into more of that diaspora. Until you have a league, you really need those players, and don't create issues for them. Right? Every country in the world does this, particularly the African countries. So why should Pakistan stay behind? And I think that there is a lot of potential. It's just untapped, and the lack of structure and infrastructure hampers that progress.
No, absolutely. I think it's great news that it is one of the most popular sports in the world, and now it is garnering the same kind of attention in Pakistan. And it has been long overdue. And it all comes to the lack of infrastructure and administrative impediments and barriers that have, the focus has always been on cricket. The funds have always been there. And
Pakistan were banned, right? You know this, right? The football team was banned not too long ago. So that tells you a story on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a chicken and egg situation. You really need to mobilize everything, the funds, infrastructure, all in alignment with one another, and, kind of market it to the people. And I'm very much on board. I think you need to bring those players from, the diaspora segment of Pakistan population who have their own following, who are obviously who've been trained, who've had that opportunity, which other players do not. And, they can kind of transfer that same learnings to local players as well. So I think it's a win-win for everyone.
I'll tell you what, though, the manager, the coach of Pakistan, Stephen Constantine, he's a real gem. They need to hold on to him, and he can perhaps deliver some sort of outrageous result. And even this Cambodia win, I would credit a lot of it to him, because he's brought some sort of structure to the way Pakistan plays. It's a lot of long balls, but he has to make the most of his resources, right? He has to optimize them. And he hasn't been given much to work with, yet he's gotten Pakistan to this stage. So I hope they continue to back Stephen Constantine.
Awesome. So I think that's better news than, it's less disappointing than what's happened in the cricket sphere. So, and, hoping that it really kind of gets that boost that it rightly needs.
It was unprecedented, right? We have to keep mentioning that them reaching the World Cup qualifiers on its own is unprecedented, and therefore must be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And